As I look upon my life, there's a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dreams. As I look upon my life, there's a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dream.
Good morning, Inside listeners. I greet you all, and we are so happy to have you here once again. Welcome to Talk with Joan on Thursdays. I know it's not Joan, it's Leanne, but welcome to Talk with Joan nonetheless. I am excited for today. I do have to apologize. Pastor Joan had just received some difficult news for their family and had to dash off. So you will have me today, but I know that she'll be watching, and she will definitely remain in our thoughts and our prayers at this time. She will share what she will at a later stage. But here we are on our Thursday show, ready to go off. And well, every show for me is exciting. Every show has been something different. Every show has been something new. And it has been incredibly interesting. You know, our guests really do make the show. And so I'm excited today to have with us Pastor Cindy, Pastor Marco, and Pastor Xavier. And we are going to carry on speaking about the same topic about the highs and the lows of ministry. So we are ready to shoot and we are ready to go. I'm going to just do a quick squiz around the room so that our guests can just greet you, say hi, who they are, and what they want you to know about them. Pastor Cindy.
Thank you, Pastor Lee. I am Cindy Jacobs, co-senior pastor of Al Bethel Fellowship. What do you need to know about me? I think sometimes I'm a bit crazy when I'm among my kids, but yeah, I think all mums do that. So that is me in a nutshell, pastor, but also crazy mum.
I like that.
Hi everybody, my name is Pastor Marco Jacobs. I'm the beautiful husband of Pastor Cindy Jacobs. I'm grateful to be here and want to give a shout out to all those watching on YouTube. Some of them I asked you to not listen in because I might be talking about you today. But if you're out there, hi guys.
Hey guys, what's up? So I'm Xavier, of course. You guys know me from the Monday show. But yeah, I'm in on the show. I'm in on the topic. I'm keen to hear what the conversation is about. And yeah, let's get into it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yes, let's get into it. And following our tradition on our inside show, we are going to go to our mirror, the mirror in our hand. And the question that I'm going to ask of my guest today is, what are you grateful for? What are you grateful for, especially considering the time of the year we're in and even, you know, the economic season that we're in? What is a place of deep gratitude for you that you can share with us today?
Let's see what the mirror says. Mirror, mirror.
In my hand.
You are going to Cape Town in December on holiday.
Hey.
Really? Yeah! No, I'm grateful. We'll be in Cape Town this year. We are going to Somerset West. We've booked and we are ready. So it's just a matter of TikTok time. Here we come. It's going to happen. I'm grateful.
Yeah.
That's good.
Awesome.
You're also grateful for that, but you have to
have
come
to
up
look
with
in your
something
own
else.
mirror.
My own eyes. What am I grateful for? I think I'm grateful for moments with people. You know, so many times we don't seize a moment.
Yeah.
We don't seize that time that we have with someone. And just to be able to get up each day and have a moment with
That's
someone
good.
is so precious, especially where we come from. So for me, that is a very big thing. Just to be able to spend time with someone because you never know what tomorrow holds. So I'm very grateful for moments this morning.
That's good.
For me, when I look into the mirror, I'm grateful for opportunity. I'm grateful that each day presents a new opportunity. I'm grateful that each day allows me to learn, to understand things differently, to see things from a different point of view, perspective, angle, and then build on that. So that means every day I become a better person. Every day I become more sharpened. Every day I learn different lessons. Some days are difficult. Some days you get hurt. Some days you get some bruises. But then those are necessary as well because those ones kind of teach you, don't go there, watch that. And so that's what I'm grateful for. Each day gives you an opportunity to. And if you messed up yesterday, in the morning it's like, alright, let's see
Let's
what we
race
can
for today.
let's see what we can get up to today. That's what I'm grateful for.
Thank you so much. And if I have to ask myself the question, what am I grateful for this year, considering this time of year? I think I'm grateful for the fact that time moves on, and so does seasons.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for
Really
the
good.
fact that the year is drawing to a close, and the place I was in last year this time is not the place I am in this year this time. So I see God's hand, and I can see that there's growth, there's change, there's movement. And I think that's a big deal, especially considering, we come from a time of such confinement and difficulty.
Yes.
And this would be our first year without COVID in at the end of the year, our first Christmas.
You
without-
are right.
our anti-COVID Christmas, and that will take place for the first time this
That
year.
is awesome.
So I am grateful, and in terms of the location that I was talking about, our church was in one place, and our church is in another place. So it's a new season, it's change, and the opportunity for growth is always, I think, something that we shouldn't take for granted. So let's get in it, because we all work in church. We are all part of ministry in some way. Everyone's got a different entry story into ministry. And I find that incredibly unique. And I'll tell you why, is because we can see how God uses one entry point, and then how you look a couple of years later is not the same way as you came in. Believe it or not, one of my first designations in church was a Sunday school teacher.
Oh.
Yes, and it was actually one of my favorites. It was so nice. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
me too.
But that was my first entry into service, into interacting with communities. And, what God has done in the subsequent years is something entirely different.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, we see that there are highs and that there are lows, and that there is a journey, and it's woven across time. And he speaks to us in different ways, and he brings different things out of us. And I think that can be our story, all of us. And to our listeners watching, God is also using you in different ways.
Yeah.
And the more you give to him, the more he will bring out of you. And I hope that you will find this conversation uplifting and encouragement, and perhaps sow a seed in your own ministry of what God is going to do in and through you. So let's get into it. Our highs and our lows of ministry. What are the big ones for you? Let's start with Pastor Cindy.
I think there are so many highs for us in ministry. I think one of the big things for us has really been the fact, when you start ministry, and you often wonder, are people going to get the vision? Are they going to get me? Are they going to get what God has given us? And I think I listened to someone speak the other day, and I just got an aha moment. I was like, God, they get it. Because they started speaking, our people started speaking covenant language. It's not Marco and Cindy's vision. When they speak about our Bethel Fellowship, they speak about us.
Yeah.
They talk about we, and that is covenant language. So I think for me, when you see the growth of the people, and you see how people become, or they move into their own, that is such a high to see them come in, not so sure about who are these people,
Yeah.
what are they trying to do to me, are they just going to try and change me?
Yeah.
And then they realize afterwards that this is actually who I am in God. So for me, that is one of the big highs, is getting to see people getting to their own. And let me just give an example quickly. So you may come into the ministry thinking that you're just supposed to be a singer.
Yeah.
But our vision of our ministry is discipling nations. And how do we do that? We do that through facilitating destiny. We do that through equipping the saints and releasing ministers. So one of the things that stands out for me is when I see the transformation of the people.
Yeah.
They begin to move from who they think they are to who God has called them to be. And we have seen that in numerous occasions. You can come in as a singer, but who's to say God hasn't called you as a preacher? Who's to say God hasn't called you as a CEO? Because church is so much more than the capsule that we have placed on it. So I would say that's one of my highlights.
It is. And I want to say and make a note that the transformation was actually one of Pastor Leon, he mentioned in our show last week, the transformation of seeing people come in at one space or, one position of difficulty and leave completely
Yes.
transformed. So I think that
Absolutely.
is, ding dong, one of the pastor favorites.
Yeah.
And you, Pastor Marco?
No, I feel like I taught Pastor Leon very well. No, I'm kidding. Leon, I'm joking. The reality is that ministry is about people, and I think that's where he was coming from. Everything else is secondary, but ministry is about people. And in our church, what Pastor Cindy is alluding to, the growth, is we actually have a little model called Bethlebert. In our church is EBF, El Bethel Fellowship. We have a little character that I designed called Bethlebert. And Bethlebert has the entry to EBF and what it becomes in EBF. So when you get to EBF, you start at various levels, and we'll use one of the illustrations is you were supervisor at work, you single guy, etc. But when you grow in your journey, we end up with a senior executive because we've coached you, we've mentored you, we've equipped you. You are now married, not that we gave you a wife, but we facilitated your... Guys, if you come to our church, just go to our Facebook page. If you see any ladies, click add friend, and I'm sure we can sort something out. And I'm kidding. The reality is that we are all about helping people and facilitating.
Yeah.
So eventually he gets married, he has kids, we help him with his marriage process, we help him with his kids process. Obviously not that we are experts, but the idea is that the community called church is what helps you to get you there. Even though Pastor Cindy and I are the senior pastors, there are a number of leaders, thought leaders in specific areas.
Yes.
There are things that I know I'm not good at.
Yeah.
And I can refer you. If I know Xavier is good at, Pastor Xavier is good at something, I will say, speak to him and then get back to me with what he said.
Yes.
And as a group, I think Pastor Cindy has a word which he calls it the kingdom economy. So the kingdom economy is not just about money, but it's how we as a collective support each other and help one another grow. And building that as a culture, a strong culture within the church, has helped us to develop people, because that is what we want to do.
Okay, well, we said that we don't have Beth Lebert here with us. Would have been interesting to meet him in person.
Yeah.
We have a few. We'll invite him to the next show.
And yourself, Pastor Xavier, because you also come from a completely different standpoint.
Yeah, so my point is, I grew up in church. My parents started Crystal Church in 1992. At that point, I was probably already 6 years old or something like that. I can't even remember.
So you can't actually remember a time before church.
No, I don't know anything before church. I
He was
the kid.
born again.
Yeah, I was born in church. I was born, not doing the things my other friends were doing, and they
Yeah.
used to look at me like, "Oh, why don't your father's not here?" I'm like, "Dude, it's not about my father being here or not."
Very good.
I was taught you don't do this, and so I
good.
stay away from this. So I'm that kid that kind of grew up under the seats of the church, and then later on started playing instruments in the church, started getting with the camera, and then when you're pastor's kid, most pastor's kids can literally do anything, play instruments, understand camera work, understand design, graphics, literally everything. Because at some point,
That's
before
true.
you start employing those people,
You have to do
you are that
Yes,
person, so you
you
gotta
are.
get in and get it done. And so, but it's nice because then as you mature, as you grow, then you start understanding the world of business. So my father's into business as well, so I understand the world of business, I understand the world of church. And when it comes to church also, one of the major things that I'm grateful for that my father actually taught me was because for people who think that pastors, there was a time the pastors used to drive like Mercs and things, and
Only Mercs.
Mercs. And then people used to say, I also want to be a pastor because I see pastors can afford Mercs. And I always just tell those people, the pastors that can afford that probably has companies or businesses or something else going on the side. Because
Yes.
church, you will drive a broken Corolla, bruh.
Come on. Come on.
We are selling out in these
Now you're
streets.
preaching.
It's not just about,
In these
especially
pews.
yeah,
We
out
are
in these
sitting in the
pews.
True.
Especially if it's not a mega church, because
Come on.
to
Yes.
count the 5 rands and 10 rands, you're not going to be able to afford a Benz with offering money. Let's just be real. And then the pastors who do make it on that level are the big pastors that we all know, the T.D. Jakeses and the Joel Osteens. But then those are levels that literally 2% of pastors reach.
Yeah.
The rest of the pastors out here,
Just
it's
serving
like,
the
dude, we
pews.
got to just make this thing happen, and we got to find other ways. And so that's
Yeah.
what I'm grateful for. My father got into business also earlier. And so that business thing also brings finance, and then to be able to run the church, and that balance is critical. Otherwise, you're going to be counting 5 rands and trying to make things happen, and it's not going to happen.
So
You're
can I
gonna
say that's
hustle.
a
You're going to keep hustling.
so can I call that a low? The low that sounds like a bit of a
The low of, I think the financial low is the biggest low. I saw
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
parents struggling. I saw us eating dal. I mean, bro, we mix dal with mint, then we mix it with one piece of words that we had to cut up and mix it in there. And my mother had to make magic happen
Yeah.
with it. And then, and the low for me is that when God does start blessing us
Yeah.
and people start talking nonsense, and then you're like, sure, bro.
Yeah, I
if
get you.
only you knew
What-
what it
where
took
we've
to
been.
even just get to this
Aye.
point. It's just
Ek
not just
verstaan.
click your fingers
Yeah.
and then things work. It's
Yeah.
it's a struggle. So I think that negativity from people
Is a
is
low.
that's the biggest low.
yeah.
I
low.
get
That
you.
thing will
That
hit you
is.
off your seat. In fact, that thing hit my father to the point where he's like, nah, you know what, I don't want anything then from church. I'll make my own plan. Because it bothers you. It's like, but now when God starts showing up in my life, then people say, I'm stealing money, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So that's a big low.
Yeah.
That's a big low.
No, it is, and it's quite a realistic thing to speak
Yeah,
about. It's
yeah.
like, we get your love when we are
When we
poor
are busted.
and we give.
Yes.
Yes, and we're
That's
always
true.
there for you. But then we get your
It's true.
animosity when, God
When it's
changed
going
things
well.
around.
There's
for us.
this one Nigerian TikTok thing that people are sending around where the guy became successful and he's like, when I was poor, you did not ask me the source of my poverty. Now I'm rich, you want to know where my money comes from.
That is so
it's
true.
like,
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
watched that, I was like, I get you.
That is so true.
I get you, I,
I
feel
think-
you, yeah.
I want to jump in
Yeah.
there with what Pastor
Yeah.
Xavier is saying. I think for us
Yeah.
as a ministry, we are a small drop in a small bucket compared to Crystal Church.
Yeah.
Us as a ministry.
Yeah.
And one of the things that stands out for me is that God has been able to provide for us with a clean kerkie that we can have a house, have a car, put our kids in school, put dinner on the table, and have all the comforts of life
Yeah.
with what we have. And that
But
in
Pastor,
itself is a miracle.
Are you full-time or
I'm
you working?
full-time.
We're full-time.
Yeah, that is a miracle.
No,
We full-time.
okay, I am
But
working.
they do-
I'm
you
working
do
in
work,
church.
yeah.
No, but I mean,
I
like,
get you.
like a
Yeah.
corporate
No, I get
where
you.
you get
No,
X
there's no
amount of
corporate.
salary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you
In
can at
fact-
least pay school fees and
Yeah.
In fact, I left a very good job as a senior manager
Yeah.
in a bank to come and do this, and we struggled.
We struggled.
We
yeah.
struggled for a very long time because the
4
savings
years.
runs out. And
To be
I'm gonna leave
precise.
that story, that loaf, to Pastor Cindy. She tells it much better. I kind of try to program my brain to
Yeah.
forget those
trauma.
years
So
because
doesn't
it's
want to
traumatic.
live
It is traumatic. But God took us out of that
Yeah.
in His faithfulness to
Yeah.
the point where I went to gym one day with one of our church members, and he called me to, we went to, Kauai, and we sat and had our little sandwich, and he said to me, Pastor, I want to talk to you. I want to give you my car.
Sure. Yeah.
But you must have Quaker. It's a Golf, man. It's a Quaker, Golf 7. And that just happened, and I said to him, you know what, can you go pray about that for a week?
Yeah.
Because I was that shocked. I think I needed to get over that offer.
You have to make sure it's real.
Yeah.
I needed to get over that offer. And
You
a
had
week
to make sure
later,
he doesn't have second thoughts.
and a week later, he came back to him and he said, I know you think I
Sure.
may have changed my mind, but it hasn't happened.
Sure.
And more recently, less than 2 years ago, somebody said to us, we want to give you a house.
Yeah.
But this is after years of struggle. So there are highs, as we understand, and there are lows. But in all of it, God has been faithful,
Yeah.
man. And I think that when we get to the highs, the important thing is to maintain humility.
Yes, that is important.
The important thing is to maintain humility.
Yeah, I think for us, we came from a place where we had, because you had your secular job and all of that.
Platinum
And I'll
cards
never,
everywhere, black
Diners
cards.
Club was my friend, my very
Private banks.
favorite
You could
friend.
travel and you wanted to.
And we
yes,
did.
my friend. And I
Jump
had
in the
to
plane,
take,
Cape Town for the night. We did that.
and I had to take, leave of my friend, We were comfortable. And I'll never forget when my husband came to me and he said to me, God spoke and he said, full-time completely, because I was full-time first.
Yeah.
And then Pastor Marco came full-time. And I remember looking at him and I said to him, but I don't think this is God. How can this is
I
the
didn't
devil.
want it to be God
I
either.
said to him, this is the devil.
I wanted
And-
it to be a miss.
And I remember him looking at me and he said to me, we won't do it until you are ready. And I really appreciated that about him, that he didn't just do it because he waited for me. I think it was another 2 years. And then God came again knocking on the door and he said, no, you have to go full time now. At the time, he had his car that he wanted. He had his Audi. And he said to me, that's the only car I want. And when God came knocking, we started with, a business was in the works. We were planning for a business. But when we went full time, something went very wrong with the business. We partnered with someone, lost all our money, and so we had nothing. I remember the December of the year that we went full time. We were so disappointed. I mean, we were down. Our children, we couldn't buy them the things. I remember my husband said to me, this is the last money we have. Let's shop with this money because there's going to be nothing after this. This happened for 4 years where we had nothing. And it was such a traumatic experience for us. I don't think our children even know.
No, they have no idea.
But traumatic experience to the point where I told Pastor Lee the story where I said to her, I was so thin where the bones were, people were thinking I'm sick. And it was really because I was watching how my children were eating and giving them my food. It got to a point where I would take potato peels and I would fry that to have supper.
Because we never had dal.
Because we
That was only 10 rand.
And so it was tough, Pastor Xavier. And you know what? I don't know how our children would have experienced that should they have been older. And I remember the day that the collector came, the guy came to repossess the car. And I was still hanging the washing, and I felt something. I said, Lord, not for me, but just for my husband, because there's only 2 things he ever wants. He only says, I want 2 things for myself. I just want a fast car, and I want a nice cell phone. That's the only thing he ever asked. And I remember when the guy came, and I was praying at the time because I was hanging washing, and I was like, Lord, please, he can't take the car, please. And we held on to the car for so long. We didn't want to let the car go. We tried various things. Eventually, we decided, no, the car has to go. Luckily, the other car that we had was fully paid.
The Toyota.
The Toyota, the pastor's
go.
car. Yeah.
Standard
It was
edition.
the Toyota.
You get a Bible, you get a Bible and a Corolla. Go.
And it was, and so we had the Toyota. But you know what? I say to people, for 4 years we went through that. One of the lows, I would say, for us would be also that we withdrew ourselves from very significant people in our lives because we were embarrassed. So it's like they always want to pay for you, and you don't always want people to pay for you.
Exactly.
So it was embarrassing. So you just withdraw yourself from people, and we lost crucial relationships in that time because we were embarrassed. But this went on for about 4 years. And I'll never forget our breakthrough car I called Faith. God blessed us with a quid, a brand new quid. And I called her Faith because I said, you are faithful, and this is the hand of God. And from there, the other car then came. Then we got blessed with the Golf. And there was a stage where we actually had 3 cars.
We gave one away.
We gave one away, and we said, this is because of the faithfulness of God, we have to give the car away. Yes.
Exactly.
So it was years of growth. But if people ask me, would you want to erase it?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
It made me stronger, it made me wiser, and it made me more relatable.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't change that for the world.
I think the reason why I wouldn't change it is, there was a time when I had that corporate job and I went into ministry where I was very cocky and arrogant, which I'm not anymore.
No, you're not.
Yeah,
It
thank
humbles
you.
you.
It humbles you. It humbles you because I would say and do stupid things. I was stupid and arrogant enough to get up, take up an offering, and tell the people, well, if you don't want to give an offering, it's fine. I don't need it. In fact, can I give you an offering? Because you say nah. Stupid, man. Stupid because I had. And I think that experience, as much as it was horrible, and God, please don't test me like that again, I feel like it took enough out of me to understand that, you know what, God is the only provider.
Yeah.
Nobody else can take care of you in ministry.
Yeah.
And never look to yourself,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
God will take care of us.
That is a big lesson. And if I think about the dal and the potato peels, you still had to go on serving God in it.
Yes.
And I think that's what people don't also see, because you don't broadcast
No, you
No, you
don't.
don't.
going through
You
it in
don't.
your
In
in
fact,
your
you hide
personal-
that
You
part.
hide it.
Yeah.
In fact,
Yeah,
Pastor,
do.
okay, you tell it about how Mandy used to bless you to go do your nails, and I would ask.
So here's the thing. So one of our leaders would, without fail, for I think probably a year or maybe less, I can't remember, every month without fail, would bless me to go and do my nails. And I would sit there and I would think, we don't have food in our house.
In
and
fact,
don't
I
have
would
And
and
ask.
then my husband would come and add on to it. But what is wrong with Mandy? Why is she giving you
Nails.
nail money? We don't
Hair
even
nails
have
for
food
wat
enough.
ons eet aardappels.
And I was like, you know, I'm the kind of person that I won't use the money if
Yeah.
it's for one purpose. I won't
Correct.
use
And
it
she
for another
insisted.
purpose.
Yeah.
She
Because-
insisted.
So I'm not going to use it for food. This is what it was given for. And without fail, every month I would go and do my nails. And I think when I lift my hands in the church, they would see the nails. No, there's nothing wrong there.
Everything's
And
good.
Everything is good. And I asked God the question one day. I said to him, you know, God, but why did you allow me to go through that process? And God said to me, because you don't have to look like what you are going through.
Yeah,
You are
that's true.
still a leader. And
Nobody
even though
needs to
you
know.
bleed, nobody needs to see your
Don't feed
blood.
on the sheep, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that for me was a major lesson in terms of how God makes you look to the people, even though you are not okay on the inside.
And yet today you look good and you are doing well.
Amen.
And I'm still doing my nails.
Still
I
doing
must say
the
so
nails.
myself. No, that is an incredible testimony, because it speaks about something very, very real, very real. You know, we can say the things that people like us to say, and we can say the things that people want to hear.
Yeah.
But that is the bitter truth about
It is.
about what had happened on your journey.
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys had a family as well. So for you, you've been young, you've been in this game long. So your lessons are slightly different, and your experiences of highs and lows are slightly different. In fact, when we had the Out of African Skies,
Under African skies.
Under Africans, out of African, under African Skies conference this year, you shared incredibly on what God had done in your life and the process that you had been through, and you spoke about a low. And what was your highs? Because I mean, you had quite a big high that I don't know much about, but I remember your youth exploding. And how did you?
So-
Tell us a bit about
So
what you went through
I
there.
I had a low when I was studying, and I finished studying I finished school in 2005, and then I was studying a bit, and then I didn't know what I wanted to study. Then I went through that whole, I just left. I was business management. I left that 2 years in. Then I started studying theology, because I thought, okay, I know this is something I know, so let me finish this. And then in 2010, I finished my degree in theology. I got a bachelor's there. And then I went over to America, and I was studying there 6 months, and I was living there in New Jersey. And at the end of that period, it was World Cup in South Africa. I was busy speaking on Skype with my parents, and they were busy dressing up, going to the stadiums, doing all sorts of cool things. And I was over there. And when I came back, then just before I came back in June of 2010, I went to an event in America that was in a big stadium. And there were like 17,000 young people there, and they were worshiping and doing all sorts. And it's the first time I saw like productions, like full-on productions with lights and smoke machines and lasers and everything.
Your eyes
And
were open.
Yeah, I was like,
The
"Yo,
veil lifted."
What is going on here? And that day when I was standing there, something just well, it wasn't something, it was God dropped in my heart and he said, okay,
Right.
when you get back, you do this. I'm like, okay, cool, let's get this done.
I can do this.
I can do this. And I got back, and I kid you not, within like 3 months, there were 1,000 people coming,
Wow.
week after week
Wow.
after week after week after week.
Yeah.
And exactly like what I saw there, the lasers were doing this, and the smoke machine
Wow.
was doing this, and the
So
lights were
there,
strobing, and people were getting saved, and God was moving because it was attracting a lot of young people. And that attraction, when people
Right.
got there, they were like, okay, wait, this seemed cool from the outside, but now there's a sermon here, and there's worship here, and there's something happening inside of me, and I'm crying, and I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
Then I'm like, I come to the front. What's going on now is God
Yeah.
is speaking to you, and you
Power.
need to get saved. And since then, so many young people got saved. Even now, when I go to events or I see people, they're like,
still see
yo,
them.
it's like,
Yeah.
that day when you preached about this, I don't even remember what I was preaching about. No, you were talking about that and that and that. That's the morning that's the night I got saved. I was
Wow.
like, wow, okay, cool. There was a kid that spoke to me like a month or 2 ago, and he called me and said, can I come see you? I said, no problem. And he was speaking to me about his new job and everything. And then he's like, now, and part of the reason I made that decision was because I remember a sermon you preached. This is 2012.
Yeah.
And you were speaking about be focused and this
Come
and
on.
this and this. I was like, he's like, do you remember that sermon? I'm like, I don't remember it, but I'm sure it's somewhere on my notes. It will probably still be there. He's like, no, that's the day, that's the night I got saved.
Wow.
His mother was lesbian. His father was murdered.
Sure.
He didn't have parents. He was living with his aunt or something. And then he started coming to factory. And then he got saved. And now he's married. And now he has a big, the headhunt, because he came to speak to me about that. He's like, this company's headhunting me. They want to triple my salary.
Sure.
What do you think? I'm
Yeah.
like, look, pray about it. I'll pray with you and see. Obviously, it's a brilliant opportunity. And then he said to me, I don't know if any of this would have happened if I didn't get saved, because
Wow.
Yeah.
God
Power.
actually
path would
guided
be
me
different.
through this.
Power.
And to me, that was like,
Come on.
God used me. Even if it's just for this
Right.
one kid, I was able to be used. But then after that, then I hit a low.
Yeah.
A massive low. A low to the point that I didn't want to preach. My father would say, okay, you on this Sunday. I'm like, no, ask Pastor Lester, ask someone else. I would avoid the podium because all that that high.
Yeah.
Or the worst thing that can ever happen to you, whether it's in business, whether it's in your public appearance, is coming from a high.
Yeah.
And then
Competing.
just disappearing. And then people even, bro, where you been? I'm not seeing you anymore. What's going? And then you're like, nah, nothing. And then my confidence was shot. Everything. And once your confidence goes now you kind of don't want to be seen anymore. You kind of like go into the shell. And that's what happened to me. And I went into a shell for like 2-3 years. And it hits everything else.
Yeah.
Then it hits your finances. Then it hits the way you are with people now. And then you start becoming hypersensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're
Everything.
like, why didn't they greet me? Why are they looking
Yeah.
at me like that?
Yeah.
Because
Why
now
must I
you,
sit here?
yeah,
Come on.
because now your whole, like everything
Yes,
about
it's
you is like,
amplified, yeah.
and you're sensitive. So if someone doesn't look at you, someone doesn't greet you, like,
Yeah.
what's wrong? But 5 years ago, they would have
Yeah.
Yeah.
been asking if I
Throw
wanted
petals
something.
at my feet, you
now
know.
they're like looking at me funny. And it's not because of them, it's because
Yeah.
you went into this shell. And now the world does look at you different because that
Come on.
confidence is
Yeah.
gone, that persona is gone, that energy that you had. And then I realized all that came from that 6 months of me like worshiping every day, praying every day, reading the word every day. I mean, every word that came out of my mouth was scripture, this. And then that's how God, it's like the oil was flowing and moving. And once that flows like that, people are attracted.
Yeah.
And when you let that go,
Yeah.
then everything goes.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, God, what are you
It's
trying to
true.
show me? It's like, you need to get back to where you were when you heard me clearly and you knew this was me speaking.
Yeah.
You've missed that and you don't speak to me as much as you do, as you used to. You're not reading the word as much as you used to. And that's part of the reason why you can't hear me clearly anymore. And so that was a
Doing
big
your own
lesson.
thing.
You busy doing your own thing. And I think that I also, because now I'm getting invited to speak on Yo TV and
Yeah.
One Gospel. I'm every weekend there by One Gospel. I had my own show on Elders FM on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah. So
And
when
I
it was
think
really high, when it was high.
It was high, but then I think that ego also pops in, like what you were saying. Because now you're like, now I'm the now, I'm getting invited. Vashan Mitchell came to South Africa. I went to go speak at his big conference thing that he had. I was one of the keynotes. So I'm like, hey, we're here now.
Yeah.
And then God's like, whoa, relax.
Sure.
Let me humble you a little bit.
Sure.
And that thing hit me so hard that now I'm like, nah, bro, if anyone else wants to go, you can go.
Sure, that's such a
Wow,
story.
I
Awesome.
enjoyed that. I enjoyed
Awesome.
that. That was
Awesome.
incredible. That really
Awesome
was
story.
incredible because
Yeah.
it is true. What
Yeah.
you're saying is true, and that is how
Yeah,
God works.
it's
That's
true.
what He does to us.
Very, very true.
I wonder if we could just maybe pivot here a bit and then let's go COVID. Let's go to COVID.
Okay.
Because were all about ministry in an ordinary way.
Yeah.
We were doing what we needed to do. Our church was growing, things were happening. And then, we shut down. We shut down from the entire world. And church as we knew it became something entirely different.
Yeah.
How did you guys make the switch? How did you guys go from a church in your face and then church online? How did you feel about where you were?
Yeah.
And when you guys were alone and in your personal spaces, how did that feel? The disconnect,
Yeah.
the abrasive disconnect that
Yeah.
COVID had on you and ministry and church.
Yeah, I think for us, what happened when COVID hit, I'll never forget my husband wasn't, when COVID came and they said the 21 days they spoke about.
Reset,
And,
yeah.
and then my husband came to me and he said to me, it's more. It's more than this 21 days. It's more than what they are saying. We started speaking and he said, we need to prepare for something because this is so much more. We started looking at, was it Meet?
Google
Google
Meet,
Meet.
and I don't know
We
what
started
else.
looking at Google Meet before we discovered Zoom. So we went to Google Meet. He wasn't sleeping. He was checking out all the technologies. How are we going to have church? How are we going to do this thing? And I remember him being so exhausted, and he said, I need to make sure that this thing is right, because I'm telling you now, this thing is bigger than what they are telling us. Anyway, we were praying. We were talking about the things. I remember the very first time we went on to Google Meet. We said to the people, you're coming on, please make sure your cameras are on. That is the most important thing, because the connection is with seeing you and your face. And we went on, and then the people were okay. The people were, okay, it's not so bad. They started enjoying it, because obviously we said to them, the condition is your cameras must be on. When your cameras are not on, that's when we begin to faff and we do things around the house. We need you to be focused. And then the other thing also that we started doing, I remember I do changing perspectives every day. So one of the things I did was, for the 21 days, I did a devotional.
Yeah,
right?
daily devotion.
A daily devotional for 21 days, which we sent out to our people. It was very difficult. And I think we had a very strong conversation with our leaders, and we said to them, there's a transition happening. You guys need to catch it first. If you don't catch it, nobody else is going to catch it. They came with excuses in the beginning, Wi-Fi, this is expensive. But I think that Pastor Marco was so adamant. He said to them, that money that you use for petrol to church, now put it
And to
in your,
work.
and to work. Now put it in your Wi-Fi. And the people listened, they did that. So I think for us, the first month was a bit of unsettling, but by the second month, we were okay. People listened, and I think also our secret was the fact that we spoke to the leaders first. We educated the leaders. And it was this pressing thing from God. This is not the end. This is not the end. Prepare yourself for more. Make sure that they are in the right place. So we had, like, every single day we had prayer. Every single day we had encouragement.
3 times a day.
3 times a day we were on. We were checking up on our people. People had to check up on the other people. We were very forceful with our people, to the point that I think maybe they didn't like us at some point. But you know what? When I look back, they caught the vision and it helped the people. So for the first month, we struggled with the online thing. In fact, the online thing has worked so well for us that we're still doing online.
Yeah. For us, I must just say, initially, because I mean, you're speaking about a situation where you're quite into COVID now, because we've already now figured out this is the story, this is the plot. Okay, so we have to prepare to go online for a while. But I was thinking about the time when it just hit. We came from a schedule. For me, this was my experience. We came from a schedule of a lot of events. Church calendars, as you guys all know, get very busy. You have obligations Monday through to Sunday, and back again. And what happened was, when there was an immediate disconnect from that, there was actually a great opportunity for me, I think, to reevaluate
What's necessary?
what's not, why we do certain things and why we don't do certain things. And so for me, that was a blessing. I enjoyed that break because it allowed a sober reflection. Because many times when you're in a situation, it snowballs. So you can't stop anything because it's part of a
already
wheel.
moving, yeah.
Yes, everything is in motion. You can't just stop something, it'll be too abrasive. But then when COVID hit, it was abrasive. But it's almost like you needed it.
Now I can relook at
Yes, yeah. Firstly, I could rest. That was nice. So the rest was kind of nice, and then the dissociation for a time, and then the new hybrid model now, because we have to meet with people. So how do we get back? How do we get our connection back? And that was obviously the establishment of the various things that we did online during COVID. And then what was also interesting for me, what happened was the weird new things that people started believing, and the Facebook pastors, or not Facebook pastors, the online pastors, or the online evangelists, and how theology was kind of changing. And if you can go online, then you can have a church. So those are all the, I think, interesting complexities for me that I did sit back and look at as a keen observer. But then I also tried to have a much more solid focus or sincere approach as to what is it that I believe, and how is it that I believe that we should be more effective as a church. So for me, it was a time of great contemplation and evaluation.
For me, it was weird because you remember that vision I spoke about?
Yes.
Then I booked the Ticket Pro Dome.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Before?
I booked it for June 16,
Okay.
2020. Booked for, half paid already. After Dome was already sold out. And boom, they were watching Cyril Ramaphosa. I had the whole team at my house even. My fellow South Africans. And we're busy. Now we're busy.
You're still in a planning,
we already sold half this thing out. These tickets are already sold. These people already paid. I've already given the Ticket Pro Dome like 180,000 rand already towards that. Their bill was 2.4 million rand. I already gave them 180,000. We were busy getting ready. Now we're sitting there, the team's there at the house. We're putting on the TV, we're listening to this fellow South African thing. I'm like, James, this thing is not going to happen. Look, this thing now, what's happening here? And then we had to cancel everything, pay everyone back. So we told Ticket Pro, look, everyone who bought online, refund them. Then the Dome didn't want to give the money back.
Oh, because
then
everyone's holding on to
everyone's
money.
like, because then
they also don't know.
They had Cardi B that weekend. They had the WWF wrestling, WWE wrestling, and then we were all on the same weekend.
It's a bankrupt weekend for them.
So they all pulled out of this thing, including me. I'm like, whoa, I need that 180 back. I need to pay people back because these are people's tickets. I can't now come with a story on a Sunday. Imagine, hey guys, you're not tough luck. You've just lost $500 or $300. And then people started nagging. Hey, Pastor, when are we getting our money back? And then I had to get lawyers involved. Then it became a whole thing. Oh. And now this is COVID going on. We can't go. We're stuck in the house. And we were just busy moving as well. And luckily we moved literally just before that lockdown. So because that guy even said, dude, if you're not going to sign this thing now, and this thing, we don't know when it's going to open. So
we don't know what's going to happen.
Just get this thing done. So we moved. We moved into our new house. And at least the environment there was nice because we could walk around, we could do stuff because it's in a closed environment. So then they sent all that money back, and then, thank God we were able to pay everyone back, and everyone was happy and everyone was fine. But then the biggest thing, because we approached it a little bit differently, we could immediately sense in the spiritual realm that Satan was putting fear on a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yes.
And a lot of COVID wasn't much to do with sickness. It was more so to do with the fear.
Yeah, you got it.
And people were like, oh, my nose is running. I must go for a test. I'm like, bro, relax. You get flu every year this time.
Exactly.
Just calm down. Don't have to go for tests. You don't have to.
Exactly.
And then you could literally see on people's faces when they went for a test and the test came back positive. They're like, don't come close to me. Don't come in the room. So we took a different approach. We were like, nah, you're not. We can clearly see the tactic of the enemy here is trying to put people into the state of fear. How do we get people out of this? So my father, he called me, he's like, so now I moved and I used to live right close to my father.
Yeah.
Now I'm so far from him. He's like, yo, please come to the house. Let's switch on the camera. We took all these cameras, we took all this equipment. We, took it to his
started
house.
something.
Yeah, we're like, now we're going to go. And we did the same thing. We went live every day. And then on a Friday, I did like youth. I
Yeah.
went live, did
Yeah.
youth shows and whatever. And we literally turned it
Exactly.
into what we
Yeah.
have here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then people started liking it. And,
Yes.
and when we
Grow.
opened, other churches didn't want to open. A lot of people were like, oh, no go. And my father was like,
Yeah.
let's open. Because people started getting lazy.
They
And they
were.
started dodging
that was
the
the
calls. I was
theology.
like, y'all are now dodging now. Yeah, my father's like, y'all must come back to church now because
Right.
then you find something else to do in that time.
Yeah,
Exactly.
true.
And then you start dwindling off into the abyss. And then next thing you know, we haven't seen you for 2 years.
That's
so then
true.
we started pulling people. And then we actually got the complete opposite. A lot of people that started watching us during COVID were like,
Yes, you did
hey,
get
we
that.
heard about this church. Let's go see.
Yeah.
Then people started coming to church. When
True.
we did meet the
Yeah.
pastor,
True.
they were like, no, we started watching Crystal and
True.
it was COVID. That's
Yeah.
how we ended up here. Now my
No,
whole
it's
family's
true.
here. Now
There was-
uncles are here.
There was actually like a massive online shuffle.
Yeah, there
And
was.
and when you got back to church, you didn't have the same congregation.
No.
You had like, how did you get here?
Yeah,
Type of
different
experience.
people.
Yeah. And
Different
yourself,
people.
Pastor Marco, how do you want to weigh in on that one?
I think what Pastor Cindy was describing was really how we started. And day one for me, we never stopped.
Yeah.
It's my slogan on day one was, it's a lockdown, not a slowdown.
Yeah.
I said to the people, what we are doing from today is we're pushing harder and we're pushing faster. Because, you know, when you speak about people getting lazy, we never gave people a chance to be lazy.
True.
Because when, you know, we have to also define this this word online church. Because online church for me is not Facebook.
Yeah.
It's not YouTube. It's not everybody watching. Online church is when I bring you onto a common platform.
Yeah.
This is my definition, and I know it's different everywhere. But I bring you onto a common platform and I engage with you person to person, one-on-one, face-to-face. And that's the comment that Pastor Cindy made when she said that, you know, there are two things that make an online platform work.
Yeah.
One, I got to see your face, because your face and your eyes, that's how I see you. And then use the chat.
Comments.
Let us hear your mind. Your face and your mind. If I'm engaging your face and your mind, I have you, and I'm speaking to you. So the next thing that we did very, very quickly is we engaged our care groups, our cell groups.
Yeah.
And very quickly, I made sure that everybody gets a phone call at least once or twice a week.
Yeah.
Check in, how are you doing? Because one of the crises that COVID brought to us was marital crisis.
Yes.
And immediately, what we did was we kicked in with the morning broadcast and we did marriage matters. I
Yeah,
think
we
you did
marriage
that.
matters.
And we constantly spoke to people about their marriages with a primary focus, of course, on our local ministry. And if you happen to watch us on Facebook, God bless you, that's your, you know, that's for you. But it wasn't really for the congregation out there. It was really for our people. And I also did a lot of talking on leadership. We took communion every day. 12 o'clock, we prayed at lunchtime. 9 o'clock, we still pray every night at 9 o'clock. We haven't stopped that. So for me, COVID kicking in, I responded to day one of COVID the way I respond to any crisis. I stopped sleeping.
Yeah.
Sleeping goes out the window.
Finding solutions now.
Yeah.
I don't sleep until I find a solution. And when we found something that we felt worked for us, we took that and we built on it. And our reality is that COVID came in and here's the thing is that what we also struggled with was that we were having a lot of meetings with people and they were telling us how they were struggling with COVID and we were not. COVID was not a struggle for us at all.
We didn't really.
It really wasn't, because if you know, everybody's common complaint was COVID hit my bank account. It never hit our bank
Yeah.
account. Our income increased by about 10% in that year.
Yeah.
But the reality is that you don't get that until you find a proper working solution,
Yeah.
which we did find.
Yeah.
And because of that, we haven't given up on the online platform that easy, because people it can still work, or it does still work. But what we also discovered realistically, you can't keep people away from each other.
People.
And you should never try to
Did
do
you ever
that
go
because
back
that will
to
never
church, or
work.
just is it solely online now?
No, we
both.
blend it quite
Yeah.
nicely.
Yeah.
So here's what I discovered when I spoke to people about, because it's easy to go back into a building. And I asked the people,
No,
so
it isn't.
is it?
Yeah,
Well-
we found it a bit challenging.
Yeah, it is
Okay.
because people
Especially
are
the
also
people who are so
completely
scared,
different. Yeah. People are scared. People are different.
Yeah.
The interaction that they had with the church service was slightly changed. We had to make a lot of accommodations in terms of physical spaces. We had to put new protocols in.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
The sanitizer.
New
Sanitizer.
protocols, and then obviously interaction caused. Then we had the funeral season. You guys remember the funeral season where we had to bury people and we had the short funerals that came in. So it was a new thing, and we had to learn how to worship with masks on. We had to have that. It wasn't like it was quite a strain, and we constantly had to aid people in church by also just speaking into what was happening and aid their thinking process when it came to interacting with people.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a transition. It was like a change management process every Sunday, and also with the different levels. Then we had to decide, okay, so what can we
Hey, but that
do?
was also a dear Makar story.
It
Even
is. So what can we do
people
now?
like-
What can't we do
The
now?
government seems confused themselves, and then there were a lot of people
Yeah.
coming out saying, "No, man, those rules and
True.
regulations
Levels
don't
don't
even
make
make sense."
sense.
And eventually, we were like, "Aye, those things they're lying, man. Let's just come. If they come, they'll come." And then we ended up just having church, and people started.
That
coming.
is true. And then the churches kind of came a bit rebellious. You
Yeah, we
remember?
were
It was
like,
like, you know what, if you guys can
remember
open up
that.
stadiums at half
Yeah.
at half capacity, and you can open up this at half capacity, then why is this
Now we went full
stringent thing
rebellious. We
for...
started getting full. We were like, "Come." If they come, they come, and then there was twice the police actually
Yeah,
did come.
but I do agree with you on this, Pastor Marco. You have to keep the hybrid model because you couldn't forsake online. There were people that still needed the online platform. There were people that were actually impacted by COVID itself, and the fact that you
And be
brought,
among others.
yes, the fact that you were online gave them a connectivity issue. I mean, not an opportunity to connect as well. So the hybrid model, I think, has worked. And it should work because we live in this information age where it's almost
has to.
irresponsible of you not to be online.
Yeah. I think that for me, what I discovered with the online versus in person was when I researched, I asked people, what is it that you really want? Because people started saying, no, we want to do in person, we want
Yeah.
to do in person. And I
Yeah.
said, what is it? And what I realized from different conversations is people are not looking for the bit that happens between 9 and
Yeah.
11. They are looking for the bit that happens when church is
After.
done.
The communion. the
That is
connecting,
what
the
people were
connection.
looking
Yeah, the
for. They
connection,
wanted
they
to
like
be
that.
together, to talk and engage and interact. And we slowly started bringing in those type of engagements. It wasn't necessarily church that we were meeting for. We were meeting for social engagement. So you might have found us at Ritvlei, you might have found us at someone's house, etc., etc. And I slowly started bringing that in. And even now, we are still in a transition. You mentioned change management. We are probably looking at only being in a building together every Sunday by the end of next year.
Yeah, that's where we are.
But we have started on Sundays. So right now, once a month, I'm bringing people together. And once on a Sunday, and once a month, I bring people
Saturday.
together on a Saturday, where we do something more evangelistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
this
you can see how it actually has changed the model
Yeah.
of
it
your,
changed
of your
it
church. Yeah.
dramatically.
I wonder if we might just go to some of the comments. I want to just get people's comments in here so that we can acknowledge them. Gershon Busak, is that one of your...
Yes,
Yeah.
I told him not to watch.
Gershon, you are evicted from this podcast. Gershon Busak says, I'm excited about today. My pastors are in studio. Whoop, whoop. Gail Briley says, good morning, pastors. It's very chatty, Gail. Mandy Peters, good morning, all. Hello, Cape Town, and Christmas without COVID.
Yeah,
That's all from
that's a big
Mandy
one.
here.
That's
Gershon says, I'm grateful. I will spend the first Christmas in my home with my family. Yes,
Yeah.
first Christmas without COVID. Alton Bake says, good morning all. Good morning, Apostle Marco and Pastor Cindy. Pastor Leon James says, you're joking, but it's true. Probably something relevant to what we were talking about at the time. And he agrees with the thing. He says, developing people is our business.
Yeah.
Glissandra, this is true. Maureen Gordon, sad reality. Leon James, Pastor Leon James, God always provides. God is able to provide. My spiritual parents, Apostle Marco and Prophetess Cindy Jacobs. Cassandra again. In the up and down, our pastors always smile while they lead. So that's a nice vote of confidence for you
Cassandra's
guys.
our member from Germany.
She's from Germany.
That's also another
Mid-cell.
thing that was
Yeah.
able to do.
And she's a member, not
Yeah,
a
we all
visitor.
became international
everyone
officially.
could come, yeah.
She's actually
She actually leads
starting
one of our...
something in Germany for us.
Okay.
Because one of the things when she came in, she said to us, the churches are not as, what's the proper word? Not so warm. Charismatic
Yeah.
in Germany. So what we found the time that we went online, we found that we actually got a lot of international people. And she literally became a member to the point where she's now running something in Germany, and we're looking at launching a church in
And a
Germany.
second-year Bible school graduate.
She's a second-year Bible school graduate, and I think for us, it has really changed our perception on what church is. If I can just share something quickly, the very first time we went online, I had a ladies' conference. I remember it was 2020. I had my ladies' conference, and I'll never forget that day. Pastor Marco was watching. He came back. He said to me that this thing does work. I remember how the Holy Spirit started taking over online. People were falling in the Spirit in their
Online.
home. And then we were like, but God is in this
Everywhere.
thing, because there were so many people that were skeptical about how do you feel the presence of God when you're online. But I think it's as Pastor Marco said, once you have their mind and you have their heart and their face, then you have the people, because we need to be alert to all the things that change. Church, the face of church doesn't look the way it used to look, and tomorrow it may change again. And so change is constant with God, and I think we just need to be alert to that.
Yeah,
fact.
and he does his own new thing.
Yes.
Amen.
Another comment that we have here from Dion Minigan. The unspoken truth of ministry, there should be a class on this. It is not just having a mic in your hand and standing behind a pulpit. Great
People.
topic. Yolanda, my pastors, I know God has come through for
Is
you.
that my mother?
Yes.
That's our mother.
Yolanda, again, your daily devotionals pulled us through. And then EBF, thanks for maintaining your online presence. So those are some of the comments that we had, and it was great to see that people, consistently support, and they managed to be pliable in the Father's hands, irrespective of what the format was like, and that
Absolutely.
was encouraging. So I think as highs and lows, we can definitely say that God is faithful in the highs and in the lows.
Yes.
He's definitely God of the mountain and the valley.
Yes.
And I think for us just to be adaptable was important for us to prevail.
Adaptable.
So I'm going to go over to all of you guys. You can give your last comments and your encouragement to our viewers. And that's what we're going to conclude on. Pastor Xavier?
Yeah, I think it's just ministry is a calling. It's not something that you just jump into because it looks like one of the comments was saying that it looks fancy to speak to people and people are listening. No, it's actually a calling. And if you're going to do it for alternative reasons, you'll soon find out that, oh snap, this is not as simple as it looks from the outside. So if God does call you, then definitely you're going to go through those challenges and those ups and downs. Like Pastor Marco was saying, coming from business, my father also came from business, having money, being able to travel and move, and both my parents working to Dal elements. And then obviously, and then it doesn't stay there, but God brings you back up. So it is a calling, and if you do feel the calling on your life that God is instructing you to go that direction, then listen, heed the call, but then also be aware that it does come with challenges and ups and downs.
Yes.
But eventually God, like Pastor Marco was saying, God provides, He sees you through, and it works out in the end.
Yeah. We're
Amen.
eating lamb chops now. No, lamb chops, yeah. But we kept,
Potato bowl.
but we kept the
Eels.
pup because we like the pup with the lamb
we
chops.
love pup.
My comment would be, Gershon said something yesterday. Same Gershon was on YouTube earlier commenting. He said that this show, this highs and lows of ministry, has been very good for young ministers, emerging ministers. And I think if I could just speak for a moment to the emerging ministers, Listen, it's not going to be all about the mic. It never will be. In fact, the mic is about 0.1% of what you are called to do. It's really always going to be about people, building people, helping people, being there for people. And no matter what you go through, because whether we want to admit it or not, at some point in ministry, you are going to hit a dip.
Yeah.
But that is where God comes through for you. And when God restores all that the enemy has taken from you, be sure to keep humble, keep your feet on the ground, and keep pushing. Pursue the mandate, because it is impossible for a humble man not to be lifted up.
Yeah.
God exalts humility.
Yeah.
But God bless you guys, and we trust that all of you have been encouraged by what has happened here today.
Yeah. I think I would say, one of my favorite scriptures is, in whatsoever state I am, I've learned to be content. Whether it is a high or it is a low, it is really just the fact that God takes care of us. And if you are looking at ministry, I'll never forget the very first time I met Pastor Lee. I think everybody was around you. We were still at a conference, and everyone was around Pastor Lee, and they were talking about, now it's going to be so difficult. And I remember saying to her, it's not going to be so difficult. There are good things. I think sometimes we focus so much on the negative that we kill the potential that is on the inside of the new people that are rising. And we must be careful not to do that, because it's not all bad. In whatsoever state I am, when you get to that place, you will be content. And so, yes, there are lows in ministries, but even those lows make you a greater person. And that is what I would like to end off with.
Amen. Well, I've had a lovely morning, in fact, listening to the accounts of my fellow brothers and sisters, and it has been good. My heart does go out to my co-host, or my host today, Pastor Joan. I know that she'll be back next week, and we missed you today, Pastor. And thank you to all our guests, and God bless and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to our Insight family.
As I look upon my life, there's a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dreams. As I look upon my life, there's a passion inside.